I was supposed to be a CPA. My parents spent $50,000 to send me to Bentley College. Boy, are they pleased. I did well. I was there for a while. And I made Dean's List 4 times. Dean was my probation officer. But, so anyway, so I did something last spring that I had never done before. Anyone here been whitewater rafting by round of applause? Anyone? 2 of you, great. Great, this is going to work. No, we're whitewater rafting on the Penobscot River, and it's ironic I'd never been rafting because of where I grew up in northern Maine. You know, that's a big thing, whitewater rafting up there. But I had never been, and having never been whitewater rafting, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. You know, but it didn't take me long to figure out that the only real objective to whitewater rafting is to avoid drowning. Essentially, folks, if you manage to get to the end of the river at 4 p.m. without having been medevaced, you are having a great time. But we were rafting the Penobscot, and we had to meet the whitewater rafting bus in front of the strip mall in downtown Greenville at 6 in the morning. Bus strip mall, this is an elegant event. And my buddy and I get there a little early, and we're sitting around drinking coffee, and people start to trickle in. We're all standing around the parking lot chatting, And then the bus shows up, and all of a sudden I hear... I look up, and coming around the corner by the Surefine supermarket is one of those old Volkswagen buses. You know what I'm talking about, from like the late 60s, early 70s? Yeah, exactly. It's a hippie mobile. It pulls in, and it's all rusted out, and it's backfiring, and it's got mushrooms painted on the sides of it, and tie-dyed hubcaps and beads in the window. And the guy parks, and he gets out, and this fella had a beard down here, hair down here, and he's wearing these old dirty rotten sneakers and jeans that are cut off and a tie-dye t-shirt. He kind of looked like Jerry Garcia, except not as clean cut. And I said to my friend that was with me, I said, "Oh my gosh, look at that fella. I hope he's not in our raft." And my friend says, "That's the guide." Isn't that outstanding? Now, the guide, folks, is the fellow that's in charge of the raft, okay? So imagine what I'm thinking. Saying to myself, let me get this straight. This is the man that is going to set my bones should they break. This is the man that is going to stop my bleeding should a jagged rock cut into my flesh. This is the man that's going to give me CPR should I be near death. And this fella's wearing a Who Farted t-shirt. Needless to say, I was concerned. So we hop on the bus and we went up to Rip Dam where we put our rafts in the water. And the first thing they did when we got there is we all stood around in a circle and they issued equipment. Okay? And there's a few things. Number one, we each were given a paddle. And that is to create the illusion that you can steer the vessel. and next they gave us a life preserver, because you can drown. And then they gave us a wetsuit, because in the spring of the year, if you don't drown, you can freeze to death. And then they gave us each a helmet, because if you don't drown or freeze to death, you can hit your head and drown. And then they made us sign a waiver form that said, in essence, if you drown, freeze to death, or hit your head and drown, it is no one's fault but your own. Have a nice time. Now, with such a dangerous sport as whitewater rafting, one would expect that you'd have to undergo a fairly rigorous training session in safety. It lasted about 35 seconds. And it consisted of 2 things. Number 1, The guide stands there and goes, when you are ejected from the raft, not if, when you are ejected from the raft, he told us, try to face down river and keep your feet up. Gotta keep your feet up. Because if you don't keep your feet up, they could get pinned under a rock. And you're going to need a lot more than a life preserver to save you. Number 2, he says, when you are ejected from the raft, try to keep your head up. Get your head above water and take a breath. And hold it. Because you're going to get sucked back under the water. So, armed with these 2 bits of useful information, we embark on our journey. And the first half of the day was great. You know, it really was. Beautiful scenery, exhilarating, exciting, really, really nice. And we went through Exterminator, that's the first set of rapids. And we went through the crib work, and it was just gorgeous. Beautiful country up there. And lunchtime, we stopped and had lunch at this little picnic area. And we had beautiful dinner, steak and corn on the cob and baked potatoes, and it was just really, really nice. And about 100 yards downriver from where we stopped for lunch is a spot called Nesauanahunk Falls. Nesauanahunk Falls, folks, is a 12-foot-high waterfall. And Nesauanahunk is an old Indian term, I found out, that means way too dangerous for whitewater rafting. I looked it up. So we climb into the raft, and the guide says, all right, folks, you people on the right paddle backward, you people on the left paddle forward. We're going to go right to left around that boulder. And I'm like, yeah, buddy, we're going to go wherever Old Man River wants to take us. So we're paddling. And the guide's yelling out instructions, and he says, dig in, and we're paddling with all these guys. We get to the edge of the waterfall, and the guide shouts, hang on! Which was the first bright thing he'd said all day. And we come over the top of the waterfall, and we're vertical. And the bow hits the water, and the force of the rapids twists the raft up on its side at an angle, and out of the 8 of us, only one idiot fell in the water, and you're looking at it. And all of a sudden, all I see is white, you know, and I'm under the water, and I'm panicking, and I'm waiting for my life preserver to work. I'm under there for the longest time, and I'm like, please, pull me up. And finally, my head popped up, and the raft was way over there. And I was freaking out, you know, and then all of a sudden, I remembered, oh my gosh, I gotta get my feet up. So I pulled my feet up, and as I did, my head went back under the water. And now I'm really panicking because I forgot to take my breath. So this goes on for like 5 minutes, it seems. I put my feet up and my head goes down, I put my head up, my feet go down, and you know, and every time my head pops up, the raft is getting farther and farther and farther away. And I start to panic. And I'll tell you, if you're in the water in a dangerous situation, panicking is the last thing you want to do, you know? But I couldn't help it. Because every time I see the raft, nobody's trying to help me. Nobody's jumping in to save me. Nobody's holding their paddle out for me to grab onto. And I thought I was a goner, you know? And I got sucked back under the water one more time, you know, when I was trying to get my feet up. And I was panicking. I saw my life flash before my eyes. And then all of a sudden, out of the darkness, out of the silence, I heard a voice, folks. I heard a voice from above. It wasn't the voice of God, though. It was the voice of the hippie dude. It was the voice of the raft guide. And you know what he was saying? Stand up, you idiot!